My parents told me not to attend my perfect brother's wedding because they don't care about me. So I got enraged and froze all cards, blocked every account. Now they can't afford anything and are pleading desperately. Be me, longtime lurker, first-time poster. This happened over the past 3 years, and I'm finally ready to share the whole story. Fair warning, this is long, but I promise it's worth reading to the end. Buckle up. Need to give you some background to understand how messed up this situation really was. I'm 27 male, and I work as an electrical contractor for a mid-sized company here in Nevada. Make decent money, but I earned every single dollar of it. Started as an apprentice when I was 19, worked my way up through residential wiring, commercial projects, job site coordination. No college degree, just showed up every day and busted my ass for 8 years. My sister Megan is 24, and I'm not exaggerating when I say she has never worked a real job in her entire adult life. She's what you might call a professional girlfriend. She bounces between guys who fund her lifestyle while she posts Instagram photos at expensive steakhouses, pretends she's some kind of influencer. She has 2,100 followers and genuinely believes she's the next Kardashian. Her bio literally says, "Living my best life, entrepreneur blessed." Even though she's never started a business or worked a day in her life, our parents divorced when I was 17. Mom Carol remarried this guy Steve who sells motorcycles and thinks he's some kind of business genius. They live in a double-wide trailer outside Reno, constantly broke because Steve keeps investing in get-rich-quick schemes, Bitcoin mining rigs, motorcycle flipping schemes, multi-level marketing. You name it, Steve's lost money on it. Dad Frank lives alone in a small house about an hour away. He's a retired plumber, doesn't talk much, but he's solid. He's also the only person in my family who doesn't treat me like a walking ATM machine. Here's where it gets ridiculous. Megan has been engaged 4 times. 4 different guys, 4 different rings. Each engagement more expensive than the last. She's got this obsession with having every single event in her life be Pinterest perfect. Somehow I always end up footing the bill. The first engagement was when she was 19. Guy named Brad who worked at a CrossFit gym. That lasted 7 months and cost me $2,800 for an engagement party she insisted on having. Second engagement was to some guy named Marcus who owned a food truck. 9 months, $4,700 for various pre-wedding events. Third was Kevin, a personal trainer. That one made it almost a year and cost me $7,500 because Megan decided she needed a practice wedding to test out vendors. Each time Megan would come to me crying about how this was the one, how she just needed help making her dreams come true. Each time I believed her because I'm apparently an idiot. But this last engagement was different. This time she was marrying Derek, some finance guy from Arizona whose family actually has money. Real money. Megan thought she'd finally hit the jackpot. Spent 9 months planning this wedding, like it was going to be featured in Vogue. Everything had to be luxury or exclusive or whatever buzzword she learned from TikTok that week. She'd send me Pinterest boards with captions like, "This is my vision, and I won't settle for less than perfection." The problem started right from day one. Derek's family set a budget of $42,000 for the entire wedding. For most people, that's incredibly generous. For Megan, it was basically poverty. She threw a legitimate 4-day tantrum because that wasn't enough for the vision she had. She wanted a $27,000 dress, a $16,000 photographer, and a venue that cost $32,000 just for the day rental. When Derek told her they needed to scale back and work within the budget, she called me absolutely sobbing. "Blake, you don't understand," she cried into the phone. "This is supposed to be the most important day of my life. I can't get married in some cheap community center like some kind of peasant. I should have hung up right there." But Megan has always known exactly which buttons to push with me. "You're the only one who really gets me," she continued. "You understand that I deserve beautiful things. Derek's family just doesn't appreciate quality like we do. So like the complete sucker I am, I started helping. First, it was just $1,100 for dress alterations, because the designer dress needed to be customized to her vision. Then $2,200 for upgraded flowers, because the ones in budget looked cheap and wilted. Then $5,300 for a better photographer, because the one they could afford took pictures like a Walmart portrait studio. Every single time I sent money, Megan would post about how blessed she was, how everything was coming together perfectly, never once mentioning where the money was actually coming from. Her Instagram stories were constant updates. "OMG, you guys, we found the perfect orchids. The photographer we booked is absolutely amazing. This dress is everything I dreamed of. Meanwhile, I was quietly transferring thousands of dollars from my savings account, money I'd been putting away to buy my own condo, so my sister could have her Pinterest wedding. Then came the venue disaster. The place Megan wanted required a $19,500 deposit up front. Derek's family said absolutely not. That was nearly half their entire budget just for the location. Megan called me at work, completely hysterical. "Blake, please, you have to help me. My entire wedding is ruined. Derek's parents are being so unreasonable and cheap. They don't understand that this venue is the only place that matches my aesthetic. I've been planning around this location for months." She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "You know how important this is to me. You're the only one who really cares about my happiness. Everyone else just wants me to settle for mediocre things. Like an absolute fool, I paid the deposit. $19,500 gone from my account in one afternoon. Over the course of 7 months, I spent $49,200 on Megan's wedding. That's more than half my annual salary. Money I'd been saving for years to buy a condo, gone. Money I'd put aside for my own future, completely wiped out. But Megan kept telling me I was her hero, that she'd never forget how much I loved her. She promised that Derek's family would reimburse me for everything, once they saw how perfect the wedding turned out. Spoiler alert, they never had any intention of paying me back. Last Wednesday, I was on a job site, finishing up some electrical work, when I got a text from Mom. "Emergency family meeting tonight, your presence is required." I should have known something was up. Mom only calls family meetings when she wants to gang up on someone about something. I showed up at Mom's place that evening, still covered in drywall dust and construction grime. Megan's BMW was in the driveway. The one she bought with money from her previous ex-boyfriend before she dumped him for Derek. Inside, everyone was sitting around the kitchen table like some kind of intervention. Mom, Steve, Megan, and even Derek were there. Megan was wearing what looked like a $350 sweater, had obviously just come from getting her nails done. "Blake, sit down," Mom said in that fake sweet voice she uses when she wants something. "What's this about? I've got work early tomorrow." Megan spoke up first, not even bothering with pleasantries. "Derek and I have been talking to his parents, and we've decided that maybe having you at the wedding isn't the best idea." I just stared at her. What the hell does that mean? "Language," Mom snapped automatically. "No, seriously, Megan, what does that mean?" Derek cleared his throat. He's one of those guys who wears polo shirts unironically. Talks like he's in a board meeting all the time. "Blake, we really appreciate everything you've done to help out. But Megan's been expressing some concerns about certain behavioral patterns you've been exhibiting lately." "My behavioral patterns?" Megan jumped right in. "You've been acting really possessive about the wedding planning. Like calling all the vendors and checking up on things constantly. It's my wedding, not yours." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I was checking on things because I paid for them." "See?" Megan said to Derek, gesturing at me like I was proving her point. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're being super aggressive and weird about everything." Steve decided to add his worthless opinion. "Son, I think you've gotten a little too emotionally invested in this whole situation. It's coming across as desperate, to be honest. Desperate because I spent my life savings on my sister's wedding." Mom nodded along. "We're all worried you might cause a scene at the reception. You know how you get when you're emotional about things. How I get when have I ever caused a scene at anything? Like at my engagement party?" Megan said. "You were all moody and antisocial because you weren't sitting at the head table with the immediate family. I wasn't moody, I just thought it was weird that your boyfriend of 4 months was sitting with the family and I wasn't." "That's exactly what I mean." Ashley threw her hands up dramatically. "You always make everything about yourself. This is supposed to be about me and Derek and our love story." I looked around the table at these people. They were seriously sitting here telling me I wasn't welcome at a wedding I had personally funded, because I was too invested in it. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You don't want me at the wedding." "It's not that we don't want you there," Mom said, in her most condescending tone. "We just think it would be better for everyone involved if you took some space right now. Let Megan have her special day without any unnecessary drama." "But you still want me to pay for everything." Dead silence around the table. Megan finally spoke up, and this is when I should have realized exactly what kind of person she really was. "The money was a gift, Blake. You can't just take back a gift because you're having hurt feelings. A gift I gave you $49,200 as a gift. You offered, she snapped back. Nobody forced you to do anything. You kept saying you wanted to help make my dreams come true. Because you kept crying about how your dream wedding was ruined every time you didn't get exactly what you wanted. Derek stood up and straightened his polo shirt. Look, Blake, I think you really need to calm down right now. You're proving Megan's point about your emotional instability. That's when something inside me just snapped. Get out, I said to Derek. Excuse me? You heard me perfectly. Get out of my mother's house before I physically remove you myself. Blake! Mom yelled. I stood up and Derek actually took a step backward. I'm 6 feet 3 inches and spend my days doing manual labor. Derek looks like a strong breeze would knock him over. All of you can go to hell, I said. Megan, enjoy your wedding. I hope it's everything you dreamed of. I walked out and drove home while my phone buzzed nonstop with calls I had no intention of answering. That night I sat in my crappy apartment. The apartment I was still living in because I'd given my condo down payment to my sister. Had what you might call an epiphany. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource to be extracted from and then discarded when I became inconvenient. Well, if they wanted to treat me like a vendor instead of a brother, I was going to start acting like one. The next morning, I started going through all the receipts and payment records I'd kept for Megan's wedding expenses. I'm pretty organized with money. You have to be when you're managing electrical contracts and dealing with suppliers. What I found made me want to throw my laptop out the window. That $5,300 I gave her for upgraded flowers. She spent $1,400 on flowers and $3,900 on a spa weekend in Aspen for her and her bridesmaids. The $8,500 for catering upgrades. She used $3,200 for actual catering improvements. Spent $5,300 on a designer handbag that she posted on Instagram with the caption, "Treating myself because I deserve it, blessed bride Toby luxury life." The $13,000 for the better photographer. She booked a $4,200 photographer and spent the rest on her bachelorette party in Vegas. This woman had been systematically stealing from me for months while posting about her perfect life on social media. I started taking screenshots of everything. Every Instagram post where she was showing off things she bought with my money. Every Venmo transaction that didn't match what she told me the money was for. Every lie she told me about wedding expenses. Then I found something that made my blood pressure spike so high I thought I might need medical attention. Megan had started a private Instagram account called Megan's Perfect Wedding, where she was documenting the entire planning process. One of my cousins had shown it to me months ago, thinking I'd want to see how happy my sister was. I scrolled back through months of posts and found one from 4 weeks earlier. It was a photo of her getting a $450 massage at some fancy spa with this caption, "Wedding stress is so real, but thank God for my sweet brother who always takes care of me. Some people are just born to be providers and others are born to be provided for. I'm so lucky to have Blake funding my dream wedding while I focus on being the perfect bride. He literally pays for everything so I don't have to worry about money at all. Family, blessed, spoiled, lucky life. Funding my dream wedding." She literally called me her funding source to her friends on the internet. But the comments under that post were even worse. Her friend Brittany. "Oh my God, you're so lucky. I wish my brother was rich." Megan's response, "He's not rich, lol. He just doesn't have a life, so he has tons of money to spend on me." It's actually kind of sad, but it totally works out for me. Another friend named Madison, "Will he pay for your honeymoon too?" Megan. "Already got him to cover the flights and hotel. I just have to cry a little and he opens his wallet every time." Men are so easy to manipulate if you know what you're doing. It's like having a personal ATM that thinks it's your brother. I sat there staring at my phone screen reading those words over and over again. She was bragging about manipulating me. She was laughing about it with her friends. She was giving them tips on how to manipulate their own family members. I wasn't her brother in her mind. I was her mark, her personal ATM machine, her financial victim. That afternoon, I drove up to the wedding venue. It's this fancy place up in the mountains, all glass and exposed wooden beams. The kind of place where rich people get married and normal people go bankrupt. I asked to speak with the event manager, showed him my driver's license and the credit card I'd used for payments. "I'm the one who paid the deposit for the Megan Thompson wedding," I told him. "Oh yes, Mr. Johnson, how can I help you today?" "I need to see a copy of the contract." He brought it over and laid it out on his desk. There it was in black and white legal text. The contract was entirely in my name. I was listed as the primary responsible party for all payments and decisions. Megan wasn't even mentioned on the paperwork. What would happen if I decided to cancel? I asked casually. Well, this close to the event, we'd have to keep the deposit and any payments already made for catering and setup, but we could refund about 65% of your total payments within 7 to 10 business days. I looked at the payment schedule attached to the contract. They were still expecting a final payment of $23,500 the week before the wedding. And if that final payment isn't made on time, the event would be automatically canceled and the space would be released to other clients. I thanked him politely and left. On the drive home, Megan called me. I was so shocked that I actually answered. Blake, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you answered. What do you want, Megan? Listen, I talked to Derek and we decided that maybe we overreacted a tiny bit last night. You can totally come to the wedding. Can I now? Yes, but we need to establish some ground rules first. Like you need to promise not to make any speeches or mention anything about money stuff. And maybe don't talk to Derek's parents too much. They're kind of weird about financial things. Weird about what exactly? They just don't want people to know that we needed help paying for anything. It's an image thing, they're very private about family business. So not only did they not want me at the wedding originally, now they wanted to pretend I didn't exist and had never helped them. Also, Megan continued cheerfully, we're going to need that final payment for the venue by Friday. It's like $23,500 or something. Can you handle that for us? $23,500 after telling me I wasn't welcome, after she spent months bragging to her friends about manipulating me, after stealing money I gave her for wedding expenses. Megan, I said as calmly as I could manage, go to hell. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Then I called the venue back. I'd like to cancel the Megan Thompson wedding, I told the venue manager when he answered. Oh no, is everything all right, Mr. Johnson? Everything's perfect, I just won't be paying for it anymore. I understand completely. I'll process the cancellation right away and have accounting calculate your partial refund. Just like that, it was done. No venue 4 days before the wedding. Next, I logged into my online banking and started systematically canceling every automatic payment I'd set up for Megan over the years. Her car payment, which she'd convinced me to take over temporarily 9 months ago when she was between opportunities. Her credit card payments, her gym membership, her phone bill, even her Spotify premium subscription. Then I remembered something that made me smile for the first time all week. About a year ago, Megan had gotten into some legal trouble. A car accident where she was at fault but didn't have insurance. She was going to get sued for like $16,500. So I hired her a lawyer. The lawyer required an $11,000 retainer up front. Since Megan's credit was terrible, I had to put the retainer in my name. The case got settled out of court, but there was still $7,800 left in that legal account. Money that was technically mine since the retainer was in my name and the case was closed. I called the law office and had them transfer the remaining balance back to my checking account. While I was at it, I remembered that I'd co-signed on Megan's apartment lease 2 years ago, when she couldn't qualify on her own. I contacted the property management company to discuss options for removing my liability from the lease. They explained that Megan would need to refinance the lease independently and meet their income requirements on her own. Since she had no verifiable income, this was going to be a major problem for her. By Friday morning, Megan had discovered that none of her cards were working. She called me from Mom's phone since I'd blocked her number. Blake, what the hell is wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me, Megan. I'm fantastic. My credit cards aren't working and someone canceled my car payment. Yeah, that was me. You can't do that. That's my car. Actually, it's my car payment has been for 9 months. Blake, I swear to God, if you don't fix this right now, you'll uninvite me from your wedding too late for that. What do you mean too late? Call your venue, Megan. I hung up. About 25 minutes later, Mom called me. Blake Anthony Johnson, you get yourself over here this instant. No thanks. Your sister is having a complete nervous breakdown. She says you canceled her entire wedding. I canceled my financial contribution to her wedding. There's a difference. You cannot do this to family. Family mom Megan literally told her Instagram friends that I don't have a life and that I'm easy to manipulate. She called me her personal ATM machine. Long pause. She didn't mean it like that, Mom finally said weakly. She meant it exactly like that you all did. I hung up on her too. That afternoon, I got a call at work from Derek. Somehow, he'd gotten my office number. Blake, we really need to talk about this situation. No, we really don't. Look, I don't know what's going on between you and Megan, but you're affecting a lot of innocent people now. My family flew in from Arizona. We have relatives coming from all over the country. That sounds like a you problem, Derek. The venue says you canceled everything, and they won't even talk to us because the contract is entirely in your name. Yep, that's accurate. Blake, be reasonable here. What do you want? Money? We can work out some kind of payment plan. What I wanted was to never see any of these people again. Derek, let me give you some free advice, Ron. Megan is going to spend your entire marriage treating you like a human credit card. This is just the beginning. You're completely insane, he said and hung up. By Friday evening, the panic had really set in on their end. I was getting calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in literally years. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all wanting to know what was happening. The story Megan was telling everyone was that I had sabotaged her wedding. Because I was mentally unstable and jealous of her happiness, she was posting increasingly unhinged messages on Instagram about fake family members and betrayal, and people who can't stand to see others succeed. But here's the beautiful part. Derek's family was pulling out of the wedding entirely. Apparently, when they found out that the groom's family wasn't actually paying for anything, and that the whole event was being funded by the bride's unstable brother who had now canceled everything, they decided this wasn't the kind of family they wanted to be associated with. Derek called off the engagement Friday night. Megan showed up at my apartment Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m., pounding on my door like a maniac. I didn't answer, but I could hear her yelling in the hallway. Blake, I know you're in there. You ruined my entire life. You destroyed everything. My neighbor came out of his apartment and told her to keep it down or he'd call security. This is between me and my brother, she screamed at him. Lady, I don't care if it's between you and the Pope. Shut up or I'm calling the cops. She kept yelling for another 20 minutes before finally leaving. That's when I knew I'd won. The fallout over the next few weeks was absolutely glorious to watch from a safe distance. First, Megan tried desperately to book another venue for the same weekend. Turns out, when you call wedding venues 4 days before your event asking for immediate availability, they either don't have any openings or they charge you triple the normal rate because you're desperate. She found exactly one place that could accommodate her on such short notice. A VFW hall that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1978, but they wanted $16,500 cash up front. Megan didn't have $16,500. She didn't even have $1,650. She tried applying for emergency credit cards to cover the costs, but her credit score was somewhere around 490 thanks to years of financial irresponsibility. Banks were literally laughing at her applications, so she did what she always does when she needs money. She started calling every family member she could think of, begging for loans. The problem was, everyone knew what had happened between us by now. And when people started asking questions like, wait, Blake paid for your entire wedding? The truth started coming out. Our cousin Jennifer called me about a week later, told me that Megan had been bragging for months about how she had me completely wrapped around her finger, how easy it was to get money out of me. Apparently, she'd been giving tutorials to other family members on manipulation techniques. She literally said you were too stupid to realize she was using you, Jennifer told me. She called you her personal bank account with legs, said she could make you pay for anything just by crying. By Sunday, the day the wedding was supposed to happen, Megan was posting Instagram stories every single hour. First, it was inspirational quotes about learning who your real family is. Then it was Bible verses about forgiveness and betrayal. Then it devolved into straight-up manic rambling about how some people can't handle other people's success. And jealousy makes people do evil things. The best one was a video of her crying while wearing her wedding dress. The $4,200 dress she bought with my money. Talking about how her jealous and mentally unstable brother destroyed the most important day of her life because he couldn't handle her happiness and success. Success, she called marrying a finance bro. Success. Monday night, Derek posted a very formal message on Facebook, announcing that the wedding had been postponed indefinitely due to unforeseen family circumstances. His entire family had returned to Arizona. The relationship was completely over. Megan blamed me for everything. She told anyone who would listen that I was mentally unstable, had sabotaged her wedding out of pure jealousy and spite. But here's the thing about burning bridges: eventually you run out of places to go. 4 weeks after the wedding that never happened, Megan's entire fake lifestyle started crumbling like a house of cards. Without Derek's family money backing her future, and without my money supporting her current lifestyle, she couldn't afford to maintain her image anymore. The BMW got repossessed after she missed 4 consecutive payments. Her credit cards got maxed out and then canceled. Her apartment complex started eviction proceedings when she couldn't make rent, and I was no longer liable as a cosigner. She had to move back in with Mom and Steve in their double-wide trailer, which was absolutely hilarious because the place barely had room for 2 people, let alone 3 adults. But the real karma came when her Instagram presence completely collapsed. Turns out when you're not posting photos from expensive steakhouses, luxury vacations, and designer shopping trips anymore, people lose interest really fast. Her follower count went from 2,100 to about 750 in less than a month. Megan tried desperately to get a job, but she had 0 work experience and no marketable skills. Her resume was basically looked pretty on Instagram for 6 years. She applied to be a hostess at Olive Garden, and they didn't even call her back. Meanwhile, my life was improving dramatically. I took all the money I'd been wasting on Megan's ridiculous lifestyle, put a down payment on a nice condo. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I also bought a new truck and started dating a woman named Jessica, who works as a nurse, actually has her own career and money. When Jessica found out what had happened with my family, she was absolutely shocked. Your sister literally called you her personal ATM, and they still expected you to pay for her wedding. That's pretty much the size of it. Blake, that's not a family, that's a financial abuse situation. She wasn't wrong. About 3 months after the wedding disaster, I was at Home Depot buying supplies for a bathroom renovation. When I ran into Mom, she looked like she'd aged 12 years in 3 months. Blake, we really need to talk. No, we really don't. Your sister is struggling, really struggling. Good, maybe she'll learn something. She's been severely depressed ever since Derek left. She barely gets out of bed. Maybe she should try getting a job like normal people. Mom grabbed my arm. Blake, please, she's your sister. She made some mistakes, but she's still family. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. Mom, let me explain something to you. Megan didn't make mistakes. She ran a systematic con game on me for 9 years. She stole my money, lied to my face about what she was spending it on, and then bragged about manipulating me to her friends online. That's not a mistake, that's deliberate financial abuse. She's learned her lesson. Has she actually apologized for what she did? Has she admitted that her behavior was wrong, or is she just sorry that she got caught and lost her meal ticket? Mom couldn't answer that question. That's what I thought, I said, and walked away. But the real breaking point came in January. Christmas had always been a big deal in our family. Even after Mom and Dad divorced, we'd all get together at Mom's place for dinner and gift exchange. It was one of the few times everyone pretended to get along and act like a normal family. This year I wasn't planning to go. Jessica and I were going to spend the holidays with her family in Utah, but Dad called me the week before Christmas and asked if I'd reconsider. I know things are really bad between you and the others, he said quietly. But I miss having Christmas with my son. It's not the same without you there. Dad's a good man. He never asked me for money, never treated me like an ATM, never took sides in family drama. If he wanted me there, I'd make the effort. I showed up Christmas Eve carrying presents for Dad and a bottle of sparkling cider for dinner. Megan was there, and the transformation was shocking. She'd gained at least 35 pounds. Her hair looked like she hadn't washed it in a week. She was wearing sweatpants that looked like she'd been sleeping in them for days. 7 months ago, she was posting Instagram selfies every day acting like some kind of celebrity influencer. Now she looked like she'd been hit by a freight train and left on the side of the road. Mom had clearly told everyone to be on their best behavior because dinner was awkward, but relatively peaceful. Megan barely spoke during the meal, just pushed food around her plate and stared at her phone with dead eyes. After dinner, Mom started the traditional gift exchange. It was mostly small stuff, gift cards, books, bottles of fancy olive oil. When it came to Megan's turn to give out gifts, she handed everyone plain white envelopes. I made these myself, she said quietly, not making eye contact with anyone. Inside, the envelopes were handwritten, IOUS. Good for one home-cooked dinner when I get back on my feet. Good for one day of babysitting when I find steady employment. Good for help with household chores when I have my own place again. It was actually kind of pathetic. Then Megan handed me an envelope that was thicker than the others. Blake, she said, looking directly at me for the first time all evening. "I wrote you something special. Would you please read it out loud? I want everyone to hear this." "Megan, I don't think that's a good idea. Please, I need everyone to hear what I have to say." I opened the envelope and found a 6-page handwritten letter. Megan nodded at me to start reading, so I began. "Blake, I know you probably hate me more than anyone has ever hated another person. And I know I deserve every bit of that hatred. I've spent the last 7 months thinking about what I did to you. And I finally understand how horrible I was." I looked up at Megan. She was crying, but not the fake manipulative tears I was used to seeing. These looked real. "I manipulated you for years. I treated you like a bank account instead of a brother. I stole money you gave me for wedding expenses and spent it on myself. I bragged to my friends about how easy it was to get money out of you. I called you my personal ATM machine and laughed about how I could make you pay for anything just by crying." The room was completely silent. Even Steve wasn't running his mouth for once. "I never saw you as a person with your own needs and dreams. I only saw you as someone who existed to fund my lifestyle and make my problems disappear. I convinced myself that you owed me that money because you were my brother. Like being related to me meant you were obligated to pay for my life." Megan's voice was getting shaky, but she gestured for me to keep reading. "I lost Derek because he finally realized what kind of person I really am. I lost my friends because they were only around for the money and free stuff. I lost my apartment, my car, my entire lifestyle. But the worst thing I lost was my brother's love and respect. And I know I can never get that back." She pulled out another piece of paper from her purse. "I've been working with a therapist and she helped me write down everything I did wrong. Every lie I told, every dollar I stole, every manipulation I used. I want you to have this as proof of what I did in writing, so you know I'm finally being honest about everything." It was a detailed, signed confession of everything. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every manipulation technique she'd used on me over the years. "Blake, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to ever want to see me again. I know I destroyed the most important relationship in my life because I was selfish and greedy and entitled, but I needed you to know that I finally understand what I lost." Megan stood up from the table. "I also want everyone to know that I'm leaving Nevada. I got accepted into a dental hygienist program in Tucson. It's the first time in my adult life that I've ever tried to accomplish something with my own efforts. Using my own money that I earned from a part-time job, I actually got myself—" She walked over to where I was sitting. "I don't expect you to help me with school. I don't expect you to ever want a relationship with me again. But I needed you to know that I'm genuinely sorry. Not because I got caught, not because I need something from you, but because I finally hate who I was and what I did to the best person in my life." Megan hugged Dad, gave Mom a quick kiss on the cheek, and walked out of the house. I sat there holding her confession letter, not sure what to feel. The silence lasted about 45 seconds before Mom broke it. "Blake, you could help her with school expenses. Give her a chance to start over and prove she's changed." I looked at Mom like she'd completely lost her mind. "Mom, did you not hear a single word of what she just said? She spent 9 years systematically using and manipulating me. One apology doesn't erase that. But she's really trying to change and improve herself. That's great for her. She can change and improve on her own dime." I folded up the confession letter and put it in my jacket pocket. Not because I was planning to use it legally, but because it felt like closure. Megan left for Tucson 3 weeks later. I haven't heard from her since, and I don't want to. 16 months later, I'm engaged to Jessica. We're planning a small wedding next spring. Maybe 45 people, nothing fancy or expensive. Just family and friends who actually care about us as people. Dad's walking me down the aisle since Mom can't be bothered to show up to events she's not paying for. Megan obviously won't be there. I heard through the family grapevine that she's doing okay in her program. She's working part-time at a dental office and living in a tiny studio apartment. Apparently, she's lost weight, deleted all her social media accounts, actually seems to be building a real life for herself. Good for her, I guess. But that's not my problem or responsibility anymore. People sometimes ask me if I regret how everything went down, if I feel bad about ruining Megan's wedding and destroying her relationship. The answer is absolutely not. I didn't ruin her wedding. Her own greed, entitlement, and manipulation ruined her wedding. I just stopped being her victim. The best part about all of this, my life is infinitely better without her in it. I've got money in the bank for the first time in years. A woman who loves me for who I am rather than what I can provide. And a real family dad and Jessica's relatives who treat me like a human being instead of a financial resource. Megan can keep her apology letter and her promises to change. I've got everything I need without her.